He's trash, you're only with him for the money. My mother said that while I stood in my bedroom doorway staring at what used to be my wedding dress, cut apart, piece by piece, while I was at work. That was 18 months ago. She spent those months calling my aunts, my cousins, her church, my fiancé's entire family, every person she could reach, telling them I was a gold digger. Then I got an email from her bank manager. He needed my signature to approve a $45,000 loan she had applied for. I almost deleted it, but I read the name in the beneficiary field, and I hit record, and I laughed. My hands were flat on the table when I played that recording at my grandmother's 70th birthday dinner. 12 people heard my mother's own voice explain exactly where that $45,000 was going. 4 wept. 3 haven't spoken to her since. Before I go on, take a moment to like and subscribe, but only if this story speaks to you. Drop your location and local time in the comments. Now let me take you back to the night I found the scissors still on my bedroom floor, and the voicemail my mother had already sent my fiancé's family before I'd even touched the pieces. The scissors were still open. That's what I remember first. The blades spread like a mouth, silver catching the hallway light from where I stood frozen in my bedroom doorway. The floor beneath them was dusted with ivory silk, not shredded, not torn, sectioned. My mother's work was always precise. I had worked a 12-hour shift at the hospital. Tuesday. The kind of day where your feet throb in your shoes and you smell like sanitizer in your own shower. I drove home thinking about cake tastings. Marcus and I had finally settled on lemon with elderflower. I was going to call the bakery in the morning. Instead, I called nothing. I stood there in my scrubs and stared at what used to be my wedding dress spread across the carpet in 12 deliberate pieces. The bodice separated from the skirt, the sleeves removed at the shoulder seams. Even the buttons, mother-of-pearl vintage, from my grandmother's own wedding dress had been snipped off and scattered. My phone buzzed in my pocket. I didn't look. It buzzed again. When I finally pulled it out, I had 3 missed calls from Marcus and 1 voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. I played his first. "Lily, I just got a message from your mom. She's saying some really concerning things. Call me, please, I don't understand what's happening." I played the second one, the unknown number. My mother's voice, recorded mid-sentence, clearly leaving a message for someone else that had caught my number by accident or design. Completely mercenary, she's always been this way. Targeted him specifically because of the practice. His parents' house in Lake Forest. She thinks she's climbing and she's using my son, my future son-in-law, as her ladder. I found receipts. Gifts she's expecting. A wedding she wants them to pay for. I had to do something. Someone has to protect that boy from her. The message ended. I stood in my doorway with destroyed silk at my feet and listened to it again. The house was quiet. Too quiet. My parents lived 40 minutes away in the home where I grew up, but my mother had keys to my apartment. She'd insisted when I moved in 3 years ago. For emergencies, for your safety. I'd never changed the locks because that would have been an event, a statement. A boundary, and boundaries in my family were acts of war. I walked to the kitchen. The back door was unlocked. She'd come through the garden entrance, the one with the loose latch I'd mentioned twice at Sunday dinners. Someone could break in, I'd said. She'd smiled into her coffee. My father answered on the 4th ring. "Put Mom on." Silence. Then, "Lily, she's upset. She's been upset for weeks. You know how she gets." "She destroyed my wedding dress, Dad, while I was at work. She's telling Marcus's parents I'm a gold digger." Another silence, longer. I heard the garage door in the background, the one that stuck when it rained. He was out there again. He lived out there among his tools and his radio and his strategic deafness. "Your mother feels excluded from the planning, the venue you picked, the guest list. She thinks you're trying to erase her. She cut up my grandmother's dress, the one Nana gave me. She's emotional, Lily. You know how she what? How she ruins things when she doesn't control them, how she makes everything about her damage. Lily. His voice dropped to that familiar register, the one that meant stop making this real. Just let your mother vent. She'll calm down. She always calms down. Don't escalate. I looked at the kitchen counter. My laptop was open. My mother had been through my emails. I could tell by the angle of the screen the way my wedding planning folder sat highlighted on the desktop. She'd read the message from Marcus's mother about the house in Lake Forest, the one they'd offered to let us use for the reception. No charge, darling. We want you to feel at home. My mother had read that and seen theft. She saw theft in every gift, every kindness, every door open to me that hadn't been open to her first. Marcus is a dentist, Dad. Not a neurosurgeon. His parents are comfortable, not wealthy. She's inventing a conspiracy. She's protective. She's destructive. Lily. The garage radio clicked on in the background. Classic rock turned low, his retreat soundtrack. Your brother's going through a rough patch, you know that, the dealership. Your mother's worried about money, about the future. She's seeing threats everywhere. You getting married, moving up, it feels like you're leaving, like you're choosing them over us. I closed my eyes. There it was. The family law spoken plain. My brother Derek had lost another job, his third in 4 years. The car dealership, the real estate office, now some logistics company I'd stopped tracking. Each failure cost money. Each cost was shared. When Derek needed a car, I co-signed. When he needed rent, I covered. When he needed space to figure things out, my mother found reasons I should pay for his apartment, his phone, his gym membership, stress relief, Lily. You don't understand how hard this is for him. My wedding represented a leak in the system, resources flowing outward, attention diverted, a daughter who might start saying no because she had new alliances, new witnesses, new reasons to protect her own household. She told Marcus's parents I'm a gold digger, Dad. That's not venting, that's sabotage. She'll apologize, I'll talk to her. Just don't make this bigger than it needs to be. Don't call Marcus back tonight. Sleep on it. Let me handle your mother. He wouldn't handle her, he never handled her. He would sit in his garage and wait for the storm to pass over someone else's house. I walked back to my bedroom. The scissors glinted. I picked them up, closed the blades, set them on my dresser. Then I took 12 photos of the dress, documented every cut. The precision of the damage, the message in the method. My phone buzzed again. Marcus, please call me. My mom is crying. She thinks something's really wrong with your family. I sat on my bed among the pieces of my wedding dress and typed one sentence. My mother is trying to destroy us. I need to understand why before I can explain. I hit send. Then I opened my closet, pulled down a box I hadn't touched since moving, and found the spare keys I'd never given to anyone. The ones to my grandfather's house. The one he'd left to my mother and me jointly, the deed sitting in a safety deposit box downtown, the equity we'd never discussed because my mother handled all discussions. I held those keys until my palm ached. Something was ending. I could feel it starting already, the way you feel weather change in your joints. I just didn't know yet what I would have to become to survive it. Marcus's mother called me at 6:47 the next morning. I'd slept 2 hours on the couch, unable to face my bedroom, and her voice on the line was careful, polite, the tone of someone who had been warned about you. Lily, I hope I'm not calling too early. I wanted to check in, after your mother's message. I pressed my palm flat against my kitchen counter. The same counter where my mother had stood, reading my emails, planning her attack. What did she tell you, Mrs. Chen? A pause. She said you've been asking Marcus for increasingly expensive gifts, that you want a large wedding you can't afford, that you're expecting us to pay for everything, and that when she tried to discuss it with you, you became hostile. Another pause. She said she found the dress receipts. $4,300, Lily. She said you were planning to return it after the wedding for the money. The dress on my floor cost $800 from a sample sale. I'd been proud of that find. Proud enough to email my best friend about it, which my mother must have read too. Mrs. Chen, my mother destroyed that dress last night, cut it apart with scissors while I was at work. She's been through my apartment, my computer, my private messages. Nothing she told you is true. Silence. Then, she sounded so certain, Lily. She had details. The house she said you wanted us to give you, we mentioned using your home for the reception, once, in passing, because you offered. She said you expected it. As a gift, that you called it the least they could do. I closed my eyes. My mother had spent hours crafting this, building a character from scraps of real information the way you build a fire from kindling, enough truth to make the lies breathe. I need to talk to Marcus, I said. He's confused right now, Lily. He asked me to call instead of him. He needs some space to think. Space. The word landed like a verdict. In 24 hours, my mother had inserted herself between me and the person I was supposed to marry in 8 weeks. She'd made him doubt me, made his parents fear me, created a version of me that required investigation, distance, protection from. I spent 3 days doing damage control that shouldn't have been necessary. Phone calls to Marcus that went to voicemail. Emails to his mother with screenshots of my actual dress receipt, my actual bank balance, my actual pathetic, desperate proof that I wasn't the parasite my mother had described. Marcus finally answered on the 3rd night. We met at a diner near his apartment and he looked exhausted. Scared, I realized. My mother had scared him. She said you'd done this before, he said quietly. With your college boyfriend. That you targeted him for his family money too, and when he proposed, you started making demands. She said that's why you broke up, because he saw through you. I'd broken up with my college boyfriend because he cheated on me with his lab partner. My mother knew this. She'd held me while I cried. She's lying, Marcus, about everything. She's trying to stop the wedding because I stopped. Because why? Because I was escaping. Because my resources might flow to a new family instead of back to hers. The truth sounded paranoid. The truth required him to believe that mothers could be predators, that family systems could operate like protection rackets, that the woman who had baked my birthday cakes had also calculated how to keep me dependent and extractable. I need time, he said. My parents they're really upset. They think I've been naive, that I don't know you. You do know me. I thought I did. He left the diner first. I sat in the booth until the waitress stopped refilling my coffee. My mother called the next morning. Bright voice. Concerned, how are you holding up, sweetheart? I heard there was some tension with Marcus's family. I'm here if you need to talk. I hung up on her. She texted immediately, your father and I think you should postpone the wedding. Clear the air. Make sure Marcus is really committed. Postpone. The word she wanted was cancel. She wanted time to work. Time to plant more doubt, to find more receipts, to build her case until Marcus or his family broke under the weight of her certainty. I called Marcus that afternoon. Let's elope, I said. This weekend, City Hall. No guests, no reception, no anything she can touch. He was quiet for a long moment. My parents think that's proof she's right, that you're trying to rush me before I change my mind. Marcus, she's destroying us. She's manufacturing evidence. I know you want to believe that, Lily, but what if there's something you don't see in yourself? Your mother knows you better than I do. She's known you your whole life. I felt something crack then. Not my heart, something harder. The last belief that I could explain this, that reason could reach him, that if I just found the right words, the right proof, I could undo what she had built in 3 days. She cut up my wedding dress, I said, with scissors while I was at work. Does that sound like a concerned mother to you? She said you bought a second dress, a more expensive one, that the destroyed dress was a decoy. I laughed. I couldn't help it. The sound was ugly, broken. There is no second dress, Marcus. There is only her, and she's winning. We eloped 3 weeks later. A Tuesday morning at the county clerk's office, Marcus still uncertain, me desperate to finish before she could find us. His parents refused to attend. Mine were not invited. We ate lunch at a sandwich shop afterward, and Marcus checked his phone 17 times. My mother heard about it within hours. I don't know who told her. Maybe Marcus's mother, seeking confirmation, maybe someone at the courthouse. She called me that evening, and her voice had changed. Gone was the concerned mother. What remained was satisfaction, barely concealed. "Well," she said, "I suppose that proves I was right. His family wouldn't pay for a real wedding. They saw through you, and you had to scramble." "Don't worry, Lily. I'll explain it to everyone. I'll make sure they understand you did your best." She hung up before I could respond. I sat on the edge of our new bed, Marcus's bed, in Marcus's apartment, where I now lived as a guest in my own marriage, and understood what she had done. She had taken my wedding and made it evidence. My elopement was proof of my greed, my failure, my desperate grab for a man whose family had rejected me, and she was already telling the story. I could feel it spreading, her voice in phone calls I wasn't on, her certainty becoming fact in the mouths of relatives I had not yet learned to distrust. The first call came from Aunt Patricia, my mother's older sister, the one who used to slip me $5 bills at Christmas and wink. Her voice was stiff, formal, like she was returning a business call. "Lily, I heard about the wedding, or rather the lack of one." A pause. "Your mother is devastated, you know. She'd planned the whole thing. The church, the flowers, the reception at the country club, all of it canceled without consulting her. There was no country club, Aunt Pat. There was no plan. She invented. She showed me the deposit slip, $5,000 non-refundable. She lost that because of your elopement." I stood in Marcus's kitchen, gripping the counter. The deposit slip was a lie. I knew it was a lie. But I also knew my mother well enough to know she had created documentation, backdated emails, something tangible that could be waved in front of skeptical relatives. "She destroyed my dress," I said. "She broke into my apartment and cut up my wedding dress with scissors. That's why we eloped. Because she was sabotaging. Your mother says the dress was damaged in storage, that you're blaming her to avoid taking responsibility for your own choices." Aunt Patricia's voice hardened. "She also says you've been distant for years, cold, only calling when you need something. She thinks this marriage is about money, Lily. And frankly, after what you've put her through, I'm inclined to agree." She hung up. I stared at my phone until the screen went dark. The calls continued. Cousin Marissa, who I'd babysat through middle school. Uncle Robert, my father's brother, who I'd always thought liked me. Each conversation followed the same pattern. My mother's narrative delivered back to me as established fact, my corrections sounding desperate and defensive, the silence on the other end growing colder until they found reasons to end the call. My mother worked systematically. I learned this later, piecing together timelines from relatives who eventually spoke to me again. She called my mother's side of the family first, her sisters, her cousins, her church committee. Then she moved to my father's relatives, positioning herself as a concerned mother-in-law trying to protect a nice young man from her daughter's exploitation. Then she contacted Marcus's family again, apologizing for my behavior, offering to help them understand what they were dealing with. She spent 18 months on this. I know because I counted. I went low contact. Not no contact. I wasn't ready for that yet, for the finality of it, but I stopped answering her calls, stopped attending Sunday dinners, stopped showing up at family events where I could feel the temperature drop when I walked in. Marcus and I built a life in the spaces between her attacks. He finished his residency. I moved from the hospital floor to administration, better pay, regular hours. We rented a small house with a garden I tended badly but loved. We talked about having children, then stopped talking about it, then started again, the conversation stuttering under the weight of my unanswered question. What would she do to them? My father called once, 16 months into the silence. I answered because I still believed, stupidly, that absence might have changed him. That distance might have clarified what proximity had obscured. "Lily," he said, "your mother is stressed. Derek's situation, it's worse than we let on. The debts are significant. Creditors calling, she's not sleeping." I waited. I knew what came next in the script. "He needs some help just to get through this rough patch. Your mother thought maybe you could send something, monthly perhaps, until he's back on his feet. She told everyone I was a gold digger, Dad. She destroyed my wedding. She made Marcus's parents afraid of me. And you want me to send money to the brother she protected while she ruined me? Your brother is struggling, Lily. You're married now. Stable, you don't understand how hard. I understand perfectly." My voice was flat, mechanical. "I understand that Derek gets help and I get slander, that he gets protection and I get scissors in my bedroom, that you sit in your garage and let her destroy people and then call to ask for money afterward. Lily, tell her I know what she's doing. Tell her I'm keeping records. Tell her I stopped. What was I keeping records of? Phone calls, the dress photos. The slow erosion of my extended family, relative by relative, until I could count my allies on one hand. Just send what you can," my father said. "Don't make this into something it's not." He hung up. I sat in my garden and watched the tomatoes I'd planted too late struggle against the August heat. The smear campaign continued without my participation. I heard about it from the edges. A coworker who mentioned my aunt had warned her about my attitude problems. A neighbor who received a call from my mother, checking in about my marriage. The strange silence from Marcus's sister at a birthday party. The way she looked at me and then away, as if I'd done something she couldn't quite name. My mother played the abandoned matriarch at church, at her book club, at the grocery store where she'd lived her entire adult life. The daughter who'd married secretly. The daughter who'd taken money from strangers but refused her own family. The daughter who'd forgotten where she came from, who thought she was better, who'd climbed and kicked the ladder away behind her. I wasn't invited to my cousin's baby shower. I learned about my grandmother's fall from a Facebook post. The family group chat, the one I'd been in since college, went quiet when I typed, then resumed without me in a new thread I wasn't added to. I told myself this was survivable. I had Marcus. I had my work. I had the small house and the bad garden and the life I was building from whatever materials she'd left me. Then the email arrived. The invitation came back unopened. My cousin Marissa's address, written in my own hand, the baby shower date circled in pink ink on the enclosed card. Return to sender stamped across the envelope in red block letters. No explanation, no alternate address, just refusal. I found out later she'd held the shower at my mother's house. The house where I grew up. The house where my bedroom still held my high school trophies, my debate ribbons, the evidence of a daughter who'd once been celebrated rather than excised. Marcus found me at the kitchen table that evening, turning the envelope over and over. "You could call her," he said. I did call. She didn't answer. 3 times, 4. The 5th went straight to voicemail and I understood I'd been blocked. This was the pattern now. The narrative had hardened into architecture. My mother had built a story so complete, so emotionally satisfying, that questioning it required more effort than most relatives were willing to expend. Easier to believe the daughter had changed. Easier to believe success had corrupted me. Easier to accept the offered explanation, she's always been ambitious, you know. Always wanted more than we could give, than to investigate what might lie beneath. I saw it at the grocery store in my mother's neighborhood, where I'd stopped for a specific brand of tea she couldn't find near her house. The cashier, Mrs. Patterson, who'd known me since I was 12. She'd smiled, started to greet me, then something shifted in her face. Recognition became assessment. Her eyes moved to my left hand, my ring, as if checking for evidence. "Your mother was in yesterday," she said, too casual. "Such a saint, that woman, worried sick about you." "I bet she is." The silence stretched. Mrs. Patterson handed me my change without meeting my eyes. At the dentist's office where Marcus worked, I stopped accompanying him to staff events. His colleagues had heard versions of the story, not from him, never from him, but from small-town channels I couldn't trace or block. The hygienist who'd once asked about my wedding photos now found reasons to be busy when I arrived. The receptionist's warmth had cooled to professional minimum. Marcus noticed. Of course he noticed. We fought about it finally, 14 months in. The first real fight, the kind that clears air or poisons it. "You're letting her win," he said. "You're hiding, acting guilty when you've done nothing wrong." And what should I do? Parade myself around? Prove my innocence to everyone she's poisoned? Yes, exactly that. Show up, be normal, let people see. See what? The version of me she's already described. Every nice thing I do becomes manipulation. Every success becomes climbing. I tried that, Marcus. I tried explaining to Aunt Pat, to Marissa, to your own mother who still won't have dinner with us because she's not sure about the situation. I laughed harsh. Your mother, who met me twice before your mother got to her. He had no answer. We sat in our small house with the bad garden and felt the walls we'd built together develop hairline cracks. The isolation became physical, geographical. I stopped driving past my parents' neighborhood, stopped attending the church where I'd been baptized, stopped expecting to be included in family events I only learned about afterward, through photos posted publicly, my absence noted and interpreted. My mother thrived in the space I vacated. She hosted Thanksgiving for 23 people, the largest gathering in years. She organized my grandmother's medical appointments, positioning herself as the dutiful daughter, the reliable one, the child who hadn't abandoned her parents for a husband's money. She sent care packages to Derek, who'd moved back home at 34, his debts mysteriously managed, his future unclear but funded. I watched from distance. I told myself this was the cost. The price of escape, of boundaries, of refusing to play my assigned role. Then the email arrived. The email sat in my spam folder for 3 days. Subject line: urgent joint property loan documents require your signature. Sender: Michael Torres, Senior Loan Officer, First Community Bank. I almost deleted it. Another phishing attempt, another fake urgency designed to harvest passwords. But I was procrastinating on a work report, clicking through folders, and I opened it. Dear Ms. Brennan, I am writing regarding loan application FCB 2024-78432, initiated by your co-owner, Margaret Brennan, for $45,000 against the property at 1427 Hawthorne Drive. As you are aware, this property was transferred to joint tenancy following the death of your grandfather, James Brennan, in 2019. Per our records, this loan requires signatures from both parties to proceed. Ms. Brennan indicated you were aware of and supportive of this application. However, our protocol requires direct confirmation. Please review the attached documents and indicate your willingness to proceed. The beneficiary account for disbursement is listed below for your records. I stopped reading. I read it again. Then I scrolled to the bottom to the beneficiary field, the account number, the name attached to it. Derek Michael Brennan, my brother. The golden child with the managed debts and the unclear future, and the mother who protected him while she destroyed me. $45,000. Going directly to him. Secured against my grandfather's house, the house I'd inherited half ownership of without understanding what that meant, what it made me, what it exposed me to. I called the bank. Michael Torres answered on the second ring, professional, slightly harried. I identified myself, referenced the loan number, and heard him pull up the file. Yes, Ms. Brennan, your mother was in last week. She seemed confident you'd be signing. She mentioned, let me check my notes, she mentioned this was for family medical expenses, your grandmother's care, I believe. My grandmother is fine, I saw her last month. A pause. I see. Well, the beneficiary listed is your brother. The loan officer who took the application noted that Ms. Brennan described this as a family investment with your full support. She never told me. I see. Another pause longer. Ms. Brennan, I should note that without your signature, this loan cannot proceed. Your mother has called twice to expedite. She's indicated some urgency regarding your brother's situation. His voice had shifted, the professional warmth cooling into something more careful, more evaluative. He was hearing something in my voice, something that didn't match the narrative he'd been sold. Mr. Torres, has my mother ever applied for loans against this property before? Silence. Then, I can only discuss active applications with both parties present. Has she? I would recommend you review your property records, Ms. Brennan, and perhaps consult with an attorney regarding your joint tenancy rights. I hung up. I sat in my office, my real office, with a window and a title that meant something, and felt something shift in my chest. Not anger. Anger I knew. This was colder, clearer, more useful. She needed me. For the first time in 18 months, in 30 years, she needed something only I could provide. And she'd tried to take it without asking, without explaining, without the slightest acknowledgement of what she'd done to me. I opened my phone's voice recorder, tested it, saved a file labeled test and played it back clear and clean. Then I called my mother. She answered on the second ring, bright, warm, the voice of a mother who had never destroyed anything. Lily, I was just thinking about you. How are you, sweetheart? I pressed record and set the phone on my desk, speaker on, my hands flat against the wood. I got an email from your bank about a loan. Silence. Then, oh, that. Yes, I meant to mention it. Just a small thing, paperwork really. Your grandmother's medications have gotten so expensive, and you know how proud she is. She won't let me discuss it with her directly. $45,000 for medications, physical therapy equipment, home modifications, the stairs, Lily. She's 70 and those stairs are dangerous. My mother's voice gained momentum, the story assembling itself in real time. I've been managing everything myself, as usual. I didn't want to worry you. But the bank insisted on your signature, and I thought, well, Lily's finally settled. She's married, stable. She'll understand family obligations. I said nothing. Let the silence stretch. Lily, are you there? The beneficiary is Derek. Another silence. Different quality. The pause of someone checking their surroundings, their exits. Derek is helping with grandmother's care. He's living at home now, you know. He's been wonderful with her. The money allows him to. The money goes directly to his account, Mom, his personal checking account for his debts. Who told you that? Her voice sharpened. That bank manager, he's overstepping. Those details are private family. You forged my signature on the preliminary application. I did not, she stopped, recalibrated. When she spoke again, the warmth had evaporated. I indicated you would sign, there's a difference. And you will sign, Lily, this is important. Why didn't you ask me? Because you've been impossible, because you cut off your own family, because you married in secret and disappeared and left me to explain. To explain what? That I'm a gold digger, that I target men for money. I was protective, I was worried. Marcus's family, you told his mother I called her house the least they could do. And you told him I destroyed your dress. Her voice dropped, intimate, vicious. We both said things, Lily. We both made choices. But this is your grandmother, your brother, your family, you owe us this. I looked at my hands on the desk, steady, calm, the way they'd be at the restaurant, I realized. The way they'd look when I finally stopped hiding. I owe you nothing. Lily, the word was a warning. Your brother is in serious trouble, real trouble, not like before, worse, bankruptcy, legal issues. If this money doesn't come through, he could lose everything. And your father's health, is fine. I called Dad last week. He answered from the garage. He sounded exactly the same. You ungrateful, she caught herself. I heard her breathing, controlled, deliberate. When she spoke again, she had rearranged herself. The victim, not the attacker. I have spent 30 years protecting you, supporting you, and this is how you repay me, with suspicion, with accusations, with a recording of this conversation. Silence. Absolute. That's not, you can't, this is a private call between mother and daughter. Joint property requires joint decisions. You taught me that, didn't you? When you wanted access to my apartment, my computer, my life. I leaned closer to the phone. I know what you did to my dress. I have photos. I know what you told Marcus's family. I have emails. And now I have you admitting that this loan is for Derek, not grandmother. Admitting that you lied to the bank. Admitting that you expected me to sign without asking questions, the way I've always signed, always paid, always covered for him. Lily, listen to me. No. I stopped the recording, saved it, backed it up to cloud storage while she was still speaking, her voice tinny and distant from the speaker. I'm done listening. I'm done explaining. I'm done proving my innocence to people you've poisoned. I hung up. My hands were steady. I looked at them and realized I'd been waiting for this, not the fight, not the proof, but the moment when I stopped trying to be believed and started being dangerous. The recording was 4 minutes and 12 seconds. I listened to it twice. Then I forwarded the bank email to my personal account, screenshotted the beneficiary details, and opened a new folder on my desktop. Labeled it Hawthorne. My phone buzzed. My mother, we need to discuss this in person. Family dinner. Your grandmother's birthday. You will be there. I didn't answer. I was already planning what to wear, how to sit, where to place my phone for best audio projection. I was already seeing the room, 12 people she'd said at Christmas. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandmother at the head. The lie would be there. The performance of the concerned mother, the abandoned matriarch, the woman who'd only ever tried her best. And I would be there too, with my hands flat on the table, with proof in my pocket. With the patience of someone who had finally stopped waiting to be rescued. The text started the next morning. Daily, sometimes twice daily. My mother's tone shifting with each message, cycling through strategies I'd learned to recognize from childhood. First, the wounded matriarch, I can't sleep. Your father asks why you're punishing us. I have no answer. Then the practical administrator, the bank needs this resolved by month end. Derek's situation is time sensitive. Please confirm you'll bring the paperwork to dinner. Then the threat, wrapped in concern, your grandmother keeps asking why you won't come. I can't protect you from what she's thinking. The whole family is talking. I saved every message. Screenshots to the Hawthorne folder, time-stamped, cataloged. I was building something. I didn't know yet if it was a case or a weapon or simply the record I wished I'd kept all along. Marcus noticed the change in me. The way I checked my phone without flinching. The way I practiced my breathing in the mirror, hands flat on the bathroom counter, preparing for the pressure of that table. You're going to confront her, he said, not a question. I'm going to present evidence. There's a difference. At your grandmother's birthday, in front of everyone. In front of the people she's lied to, the people who believed her. I turned from the mirror to face him. She's demanded I bring the signed papers. She's told the family I'm considering it but need convincing. She's building a story where I finally do the right thing, where her patience and persistence pay off, where the bad daughter returns to the fold. And when you don't sign, I smiled. It felt strange on my face, unfamiliar. Then she explains why I refused, why I'm selfish, why I chose money over family again. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then, what do you need from me? Be there, say nothing, witness. He nodded. That was the agreement we'd built in 18 months of marriage. His silence, my strategy, our shared understanding that his family still wouldn't have us to dinner, that my mother had taken something from him too, that this was repair as much as revenge. I prepared methodically. Printed the bank email, the beneficiary page, the loan terms. Saved the recording to my phone, to a backup phone, to a USB drive I carried in my purse. Tested the Bluetooth speaker I'd bought specifically for this, small, powerful enough to fill a private dining room. I researched the restaurant, Giuseppe's downtown, a private room that held 14. My mother had reserved it months ago before the loan, before the need. The birthday had always been her stage. She'd simply adapted the script. 3 days before, she texted, "Wear something appropriate. Your Aunt Patricia is coming and you know how she judges. 2 days, Derek is nervous to see you. Be kind." He's been through so much. The day before, "I hope you've thought about what this family has given you, what you're risking. Sign the papers, Lily. For once in your life, choose us." I didn't respond. I painted my nails dark red, almost black, a color she'd hate, and I practiced setting my phone on a table. Casual, obvious, nothing hidden, nothing sneaky. The recording would play from a device in plain sight, and she would watch it happen. The morning of, I woke at 4 a.m. Marcus was already awake, reading in the dark. "She thinks she's won," I said to the ceiling. "She thinks you'll break, that you'll sign to keep the peace." He turned a page. "She doesn't know what you know. She doesn't know I recorded her. She doesn't know I have proof. She knows you have something. She's texting too much, pushing too hard. She senses resistance." He closed his book. "Be careful. Cornered animals are unpredictable. She's not an animal. She's a system. Systems are predictable. They do what they've always done." I sat up, feet on the cold floor. "She'll perform. She'll demand. She'll make it about my failings, my absence, my selfishness. And then I'll show the room what she's really been doing." We arrived at Giuseppe's at 6:45, early enough to choose our seats, late enough to seem normal. The private room was already half full. Aunt Patricia, Uncle Robert, 2 cousins I hadn't seen in 2 years. They looked at me with the expressions I'd learned to expect: curiosity, suspicion, the faint hope that I might perform the role my mother had assigned me. My mother swept in at 7:10, Derek trailing behind her. She kissed cheeks, distributed gifts, positioned herself at the head of the table with my grandmother's empty chair beside her. The guest of honor hadn't arrived yet. She saw me. Her smile didn't falter, but her eyes assessed my dress, my posture, my empty hands where signed papers should be. "Lily." She crossed the room, arms open for embrace I didn't return. "You came. I wasn't sure you'd have the courage." "I have excellent courage, Mom. You taught me that. Every time you made me explain myself, defend myself, prove I deserve to exist in your presence." Her smile tightened. "We'll talk later, when you've had wine, when you're calmer." She turned away, already dismissing me, already beginning her evening's performance. I watched her work the room, touching shoulders, lowering her voice for confidences, building the narrative before the main event. I set my phone on the table. Screen down. Bluetooth connected, speaker in my purse at my feet. My grandmother arrived at 7:25, frail and fierce, and the dinner began. The first course arrived, antipasto, arranged on white ceramic, and my mother stood, glass in hand, tapping it with her fork until the room quieted. "To my mother," she said, "who taught me what family means, who showed me that love is sacrifice, that loyalty is everything, that we rise and fall together." She looked directly at me. "Some lessons take longer to learn than others." The table murmured approval. Aunt Patricia nodded, eyes glistening. Derek stared at his plate, shoulders hunched like a boy expecting punishment. I ate nothing. My hands were flat on the tablecloth, the way I'd practiced, the way they would be when I pressed play. My mother continued her performance through the main course. Small jokes about my grandmother's stubborn independence, larger observations about children who forget their roots, all delivered with the sorrow of someone who had tried her best and been disappointed. The cousins listened. Uncle Robert refilled his wine. No one contradicted her because no one had heard the alternative version because my absence had become evidence of my guilt. The cake arrived at 8:30. 70 candles, my grandmother's face glowing in their light, and my mother leaned close to me as the room sang, her breath warm against my ear. "The papers, Lily, now, before she blows out the candles. Give me this moment." I turned to face her. "No," she straightened. The singing ended. My grandmother exhaled, candles guttering, and applause filled the silence my mother had left. Then, "Lily has something to share." My mother's voice cut through the celebration, bright, false, generous. "She's been considering a family matter, a way to help her brother to support her grandmother. I hope she's decided to do the right thing." 12 faces turned to me. Patricia curious, Robert bored, Derek terrified, my grandmother confused. Marcus sat motionless beside me, his hand on my knee under the table, steady pressure. I stood. My phone was already in my hand. "I do have something to share." My voice was clear, conversational, the tone I'd practiced. "My mother asked me to sign loan papers tonight. $45,000 borrowed against my grandfather's house. She told the bank it was for grandmother's medical expenses. She told me it was for family. She told many of you, I suspect, that I was considering it, that I needed persuasion, that my absence from this family represented selfishness rather than survival." "Lily," my mother began. "Let me finish." I pressed a button on my phone. The Bluetooth speaker in my purse woke, connected, ready. I asked my mother why she needed this money. I recorded her answer. "I'd like you all to hear it." I pressed play. My mother's voice filled the private dining room, tinny and intimate and unmistakable. "Your brother is in serious trouble, real trouble, not like before, worse, bankruptcy, legal issues. If this money doesn't come through, he could lose everything." Aunt Patricia's fork clattered against her plate. "You owe us this, you married rich, you don't need the house equity, your brother does." My grandmother's hand went to her chest. Derek pushed back from the table, chair scraping loud. "I have spent 30 years protecting you, supporting you, and this is how you repay me." I stopped the recording. The silence was absolute, broken only by the kitchen clatter from beyond the door. "She lied to the bank," I said. "She lied to me. She's been lying to all of you for 18 months about why I eloped, why I stayed away, why I stopped answering her calls." I pulled the printed bank email from my purse, laid it on the table beside my grandmother's cake. "The beneficiary is Derek." Not grandmother, never grandmother. My mother's face had transformed. The mask slipped, revealing something raw and calculating and furious. "You recorded me without my knowledge. That's illegal, that's illegal in the state, actually, one-party consent." I smiled, the strange smile from my mirror. "But more importantly, true, every word true, the dress you destroyed, the lies you told Marcus's family, the smear campaign you ran through every aunt, every cousin, every church committee. True." "She's unwell," my mother said to the table, to anyone, her voice rising. "She's always been dramatic, jealous of her brother. This is—" "Mom," Derek's voice, small, broken, the first word he'd spoken all evening. "Stop." She turned to him, astonished. "Derek, don't. I told you not to involve her. I told you to leave Lily alone. You said you'd handle it." He stood, knocking his water glass sideways, not noticing. "You said she'd sign, that she always signs, that she's—" "Sit down." My mother's command, the voice that had governed our household for decades. Derek sat, but he didn't stop speaking. "The debts are gambling, online. I told Mom not to tell anyone, but she said Lily had money now, that Lily owed us, that married people had to support their families." Aunt Patricia stood, slowly like an old woman though she was only 62. "Margaret," Is any of this true? The loan, the dress, the things you told us about Lily? Patricia, you know how she is. You know what she's always been. I know what you told me. Patricia's voice hardened. I know I believed you. I know I sent back her invitation unopened because you said she'd been cruel to you, that she'd chosen money over family. She looked at me, really looked, for the first time in 2 years. Lily, I'm sorry, don't apologize to her. My mother's control was fracturing, pieces falling away, something uglier emerging. She recorded me. She planned this. She's been plotting. 18 months, I said. You spent 18 months destroying my reputation. Tonight I spent 4 minutes correcting it. I picked up the unsigned loan papers, the ones my mother had prepared, the ones with my forged signature indicated on the preliminary application. I placed them on the table beside the cake, beside the bank email, beside the candle wax dripping onto white ceramic. I won't sign. I won't pay for his debts. I won't fund your protection racket anymore. I sat down. Marcus's hand found mine under the table, interlaced fingers, anchor and witness. My mother looked at the room, her audience, her jury. Uncle Robert was staring at his wine, color high in his cheeks. The cousins whispered to each other, heads together, glancing up at her and away. My grandmother was crying, silent tears tracking down her face, her hand still pressed to her chest. Mom, my mother said to her. Don't cry, she's manipulating you. She's always been. Be quiet, Margaret. My grandmother's voice, thin but absolute. I raised you better than this. I know I did. I remember teaching you to be kind. The words landed like a verdict. My mother flinched. Derek stood again. This time he didn't sit. I'm going, he said. I can't, I won't be part of this anymore. He looked at me direct, the first honest contact between us in years. I'm sorry, Lily, for all of it. For letting her use me, for letting her use you. He left. The door closed behind him with a soft click that seemed louder than any shout. My father, who had said nothing through the entire dinner, who had eaten his risotto and drunk his wine and watched his family disintegrate, finally spoke. Margaret, perhaps we should. Don't. She didn't look at him. Don't you start, don't you? She stopped, caught herself. The performance instinct reasserting, gathering the fragments of her persona, preparing the next act, but the room had shifted. I could feel it, the way you feel temperature change. Patricia had moved her chair, physical distance, small but meaningful. Robert had stopped refilling his wine. The cousins were gathering their coats. My mother looked at me, really looked. And for a moment, brief, unguarded, I saw what I'd always suspected. Not malice, not even cruelty. Fear. The terror of a woman who had built her entire identity on control, watching it dissolve. You think you've won, she said. I think I've stopped losing. I stood. Marcus stood with me. We walked to the door together, and I felt the room watching, the narrative rewriting itself in real time, my mother's version dissolving like the candle smoke still rising from my grandmother's cake. At the door, I turned back. The house on Hawthorne, I said. I'm contacting a lawyer tomorrow. We'll be selling it, or I'll be buying you out. Either way, you're done using my name for loans I never approved. My grandmother spoke one more time. Lily, will I see you again? I looked at her, frail, fierce, caught in the crossfire of a war she hadn't chosen. Yes, Grandma, soon, without the audience. We left. The hallway was quiet, the restaurant beyond humming with normal dinners, normal families, normal betrayals kept private. Marcus's hand was warm in mine. The night air was cool against my face. Behind us, I heard my mother's voice rising, beginning the explanation, the justification, the next version of the story. But the door was thick and we were walking away, and for the first time in 18 months I didn't care what she said next. The fallout arrived in pieces. Aunt Patricia called the next morning, her voice thick with crying. I believed her, she said, no preamble. For 2 years, I believed every word. The dress, the gold digging, the way she described you at Christmas, so cold, so calculating. She stopped, gathered herself. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm asking if you'll let me try again. I said yes. Not because the wound was healed, but because I recognized something in her voice. The shame of someone who had participated without questioning, who had preferred the comfort of a clear narrative to the work of independent judgment. I had been her once. Believing my mother because disbelief cost too much. Uncle Robert sent a letter, formal, embarrassed, offering to mediate the property sale and ensure fair dealing. I declined. Hired my own lawyer, a woman named Chen who asked no questions about family, only about documentation, timelines, equity values. My mother did not call. Not that week, not the next. The silence was its own message, a withdrawal that felt simultaneously like surrender and threat. She was regrouping. She would always be regrouping. The social contraction began visibly. My cousin Marissa, the one who'd returned my invitation, posted a photo from a baby shower I hadn't been invited to. My mother wasn't in it. Neither was Aunt Patricia. The comments mentioned smaller gatherings lately, keeping things simple, and I understood that my mother's sphere was shrinking, her reliability as a narrator damaged beyond easy repair. At church, someone told me later she arrived alone. My father had stopped attending, resumed his garage seclusion full-time. Derek had moved out, found an apartment across town, started a job in inventory management that didn't require references from family. The golden child, ungilded, surviving on his own. I saw my mother once, by accident, at the grocery store where Mrs. Patterson had assessed my ring. She was in the produce section, examining avocados with the same precision she'd once applied to my wedding dress. She looked smaller. The same expensive coat, the same careful makeup, but something collapsed in the posture, the confidence. Our eyes met. She looked away first, walked her cart to another aisle without selecting anything. I didn't follow. I bought my tea and drove home, and Marcus made dinner, and we ate without mentioning her. The absence of mention felt like victory, not triumph, nothing so dramatic. Simply the normalization of a boundary I'd once believed impossible to enforce. 3 relatives stopped speaking to her. I learned this through Patricia, who had become an unexpected ally, careful and penitent. Your mother's sister, Gloria, your cousin Thomas, and Mrs. Patterson actually, she asked about you last week. Said your mother had told her some things that didn't sit right anymore. I laughed. Mrs. Patterson, the cashier who'd assessed my ring. The social web my mother had cultivated for decades, unraveling thread by thread. My grandmother called monthly now. Short conversations, mostly about her garden, her shows, her friends from the senior center. She never mentioned my mother unless I asked, and I rarely asked. The birthday dinner had cost her something, the image of her daughter, the comfort of family coherence, and she was building a smaller life from what remained. The property sale finalized in March. My mother took her half, paid off Derek's remaining debts, and bought a condo in a development I didn't know. My father stayed in the garage house alone until he didn't, a stroke in April minor enough to require assistance. My mother moved him to the condo. He lasted 6 months, died in October, the funeral sparsely attended. I went, sat in the back. My mother sat in the front, widow's posture, receiving condolences from people who didn't know what she'd done or didn't care. We didn't speak. I left before the burial, stopped at the cemetery the following week when I could be alone with whatever I needed to feel. Marcus and I bought a house the next spring. Bigger than we needed, with room we told ourselves was for children we were still discussing. I planted a garden. Grew tomatoes successfully. Finally, in soil I learned to prepare myself. The unsigned loan papers sat in my desk drawer for months. I found them when cleaning, the bank's letterhead, My mother's forged signature indication, the blank line where mine should have been. I thought about framing them, thought about burning them. In the end, I scanned them, filed them with the property documentation, and recycled the originals. Some evidence you keep, some you let go. My mother lives still in her condo in the stories she tells to whoever remains. I hear fragments occasionally, filtered through Patricia, through my grandmother's careful omissions. The narrative has shifted. I am ungrateful, vengeful, mentally unstable, but it reaches fewer ears. The energy required to maintain it exhausts her now. The returns diminish. I saw her once more at a distance in the parking lot of the hospital where I still work. She was visiting a specialist. I learned later something with her heart. She didn't see me. I watched her walk, slower, heavier, still precise in her movements, and felt nothing I could name. Not hate, not grief. The absence of both, perhaps. The space where a daughter's love had been, now occupied by something neutral and clean. I went back to work, treated patients, went home to my husband, my garden, my life built from materials I had chosen and paid for myself. Last week, my grandmother turned 72. We had lunch at a restaurant she selected, just the two of us. She brought photographs, my grandfather young, my father as a boy, me at 7 with missing front teeth and no knowledge of what my mother would become. "You look happy," she said, studying my face across the table. "I am happy, Grandma." She nodded, satisfied, and we ordered dessert we didn't need. Outside, the afternoon light was gold and generous, and I walked her to her car, and she held my hand longer than necessary before letting go. The loan papers are in a file cabinet now. The recording backed up in 3 locations. The dress photos saved to cloud storage I check rarely. Evidence of a war I won not by destroying her, but by refusing to participate in my own destruction. I keep one thing visible. On my desk at home, in a small frame, the scissors from my bedroom floor, blades closed, photographed against the ivory silk they had sectioned. A reminder of precision, of what careful hands can do when motivated by fear. Of what I survived, and documented, and finally walked away from.